I was not always the tech entrepreneur you see today. Back in Seattle, I built a software company from the ground up with my best friend Derek. We were inseparable since college, combining my coding skills with his business acumen. Everything seemed perfect until I noticed subtle changes. Secretive phone calls, closed-door meetings. I brushed off my concerns, trusting the friendship we had built. Before I tell you how my best friend tried to steal everything I had built, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever trusted someone who did not deserve it. Trust me, you will want to see how I turned the tables. My journey with Derek began during my final year at the University of Washington. As a computer science major, I spent most of my time buried in code rather than building friendships. That changed during the annual Northwest Coding Championship when I was paired with Derek Wilson, a business student with a surprising aptitude for technology. "Looks like we are stuck together," Derek said, extending his hand. "I am more business than coding, but I promise not to slow you down." I remember sizing him up, tall, confident, with a disarming smile that put people at ease instantly. We ended up taking second place, beating teams with far more technical experience. "We make a good team," Derek said as we celebrated over beers. "You handle the technical brilliance, I handle the people. Imagine what we could build together." After graduation, we both landed entry-level jobs at different tech companies in Seattle. We decided to share an apartment to save money, which meant our evenings were filled with conversations about the future. "These companies do not appreciate what we bring to the table," Derek would say during our late-night coding sessions. "We could build something better ourselves." The idea for our company was born during one of those sessions. I had been working on a unique algorithm for data analytics that could revolutionize how small businesses tracked customer engagement. Derek immediately saw the potential. "This is it, Burke. This is our ticket. Starting the company required capital." I took a risk and invested the inheritance money my grandfather had left me, $80,000 that was supposed to be my safety net. Derek contributed what he could, though it was significantly less. I did not mind. His business expertise seemed just as valuable as my financial contribution. That first year tested our resolve. We worked out of my apartment, surviving on ramen noodles and coffee. There were moments when I questioned whether we would make it. "No one said this would be easy," Derek reminded me during a particularly rough patch, when we had gone 3 months without landing a client. "But think about where we will be in 5 years. Then came our breakthrough, landing Horizon Tech, a mid-sized retailer looking to improve their customer analytics. I still remember Derek bursting through the door, waving the signed contract. "We did it!" he shouted, pulling me into a bear hug. "This is just the beginning." We celebrated that night at the Summit, a high-end restaurant neither of us could really afford. Derek ordered champagne, raising his glass in a toast. "To Burke, the genius behind it all. I'm just lucky to be along for the ride." With Horizon Tech on board, we finally had the capital to rent a small office space in South Lake Union. It was nothing fancy, just 2 rooms with industrial carpeting and fluorescent lighting, but it felt like a palace to us. "Our first real headquarters," Derek said, arms spread wide as we stood in the empty space. "Pretty soon this whole building will be ours." The company grew steadily. We hired our first employees, developers, sales staff, customer support. Within 18 months, we had a team of 15 people who believed in our vision. Derek handled all the business aspects, finances, contracts, client relationships, while I focused on product development. I trusted him completely, never questioning his decisions or asking to review the books. My personal life was thriving too. I started dating Jessica, a graphic designer who had created our company logo. Derek was supportive of our relationship, often insisting I leave work early for dates. "The company will survive without you for one night," he would say. "Do not mess this one up. She is a keeper." When my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, Derek showed his true friendship. He covered for me during the weeks I spent at the hospital, handling client meetings and keeping the team on track. "Family comes first," he told me. "Take all the time you need. I have got everything under control." How could I have known those same caring words would take on a sinister meaning just months later? The first hint that something was amiss came during a routine staff meeting. Derek had hired Alicia as our new marketing director, and she made an odd comment while discussing our branding strategy. As a majority stakeholder, Derek, what direction do you want to take with the new campaign, she asked. Majority stakeholder Derek and I had equal 50-50 ownership. At least that was what I had always understood. Derek quickly interjected before I could correct her. Burke and I will discuss and get back to you, he said smoothly, changing the subject. Later, when I questioned him about it, Derek laughed it off. Alicia is new. She must have misunderstood the company structure, he explained. You know we are equal partners in this. I accepted his explanation, but something felt off. That feeling intensified a week later, when I happened to be at Pike Place Market on a Saturday and spotted Derek at a corner table in an upscale restaurant. He was deep in conversation with James Whitman, the CEO of our biggest competitor. They were reviewing documents together, and Derek looked secretive, constantly glancing around as if worried about being seen. The following Monday, I confronted him in his office. Were you meeting with Whitman from Apex Data? I asked directly. Derek did not miss a beat. Yes, actually. I was going to tell you about it. They are interested in a potential collaboration on the Henderson project. I wanted to feel things out before bringing it to you. Could be a big opportunity for us. His explanation seemed reasonable, but the knot in my stomach remained. That evening, I mentioned the incident to Jessica over dinner. Has Derek seemed different to you lately? I asked. Jessica set down her fork. Now that you mention it, yes. Last week at the company barbecue, he barely spoke to me, and he kept taking calls in private. Very different from his usual social butterfly self. 2 days later, Marcus, our company CFO, asked to speak with me privately. He closed the door to my office, looking uncomfortable. Burke, I have found some concerning transactions in our accounts, he said, sliding several printouts across my desk. Large transfers to a holding company I cannot identify, all authorized by Derek. The documents showed that over $300,000 had been moved in the past month alone. When I searched the company database for more information, I discovered something even more alarming: legal documents with my signature that I had never seen before, much less signed. My signature had been forged on papers that gradually reduced my ownership stake in the company. According to these documents, I now owned only 22%. Further investigation revealed Derek had been meeting with potential investors, pitching himself as the visionary founder while describing me as just the technical guy. He had been systematically positioning himself to take control of everything we had built together. The realization kept me awake for nights. I lost weight, became irritable, and found it hard to concentrate on work. Jessica noticed my deteriorating condition. You need to gather concrete evidence before confronting him, she advised. If he has been planning this for months, he will have covered his tracks. Taking her advice, I hired Thomas Reeves, a private investigator recommended by a college friend. Thomas began tracking Derek's movements and communications discreetly. Meanwhile, Derek's behavior at the office became increasingly controlling. During a board meeting, he subtly undermined my authority, contradicting my statements about product development timelines. Burke is brilliant with code, but sometimes loses track of the business realities, he told the board members with a sympathetic smile. Thankfully, I have been managing client expectations. I felt myself being systematically isolated within my own company. Employees who had once come directly to me with questions now deferred to Derek. Even my development team seemed distant, having been told by Derek that I was dealing with personal issues and should not be bothered with day-to-day matters. The private investigator's findings confirmed my worst fears. Derek had established offshore accounts where he was diverting company funds. He had created a complex web of shell companies that made it appear he had contributed more capital than I had. Based on these documents, Thomas explained, he has been planning this takeover for at least 8 months. The most damning evidence came in the form of emails between Derek and a corporate lawyer, explicitly discussing how to ease Burke out of the company. The technical genius routine has served its purpose, Derek wrote. Once the Series B funding closes, we can make the transition. Burke is just the technical guy, replaceable once we have the IP secured. My trusted friend of 5 years had been systematically betraying me, viewing our friendship as merely a stepping stone to his ambitions. The betrayal cut deeper when I discovered Derek had been turning key employees against me. Madison from HR later admitted Derek had told her I was planning to outsource her department. He told our lead developer that I thought his work was subpar. Each lie was carefully crafted to isolate me. Then disaster struck. Our development server crashed, wiping out months of work on our newest product. The backup systems, which Derek had insisted on managing mysteriously, failed as well. Later investigation would reveal deliberate sabotage, but at the time it appeared to be catastrophic incompetence on my part. The final blow came when my mother's condition worsened, requiring emergency surgery. While I was at the hospital in Portland, Derek called an emergency board meeting. I received the notification while sitting in the waiting room, my mother in surgery. "This cannot wait," Derek insisted when I called. "Major investors are concerned about the server crash. We need to address it immediately." I raced to the airport, desperate to get back to Seattle. My flight was delayed by mechanical issues, then rerouted due to weather. By the time I landed and rushed to the office, it was nearly 9 p.m., the board meeting long concluded. My key card did not work. Through the glass doors, I could see a security guard I did not recognize. When I knocked, he approached cautiously. "I am Burke Reynolds, the co-founder," I explained. "I have instructions not to allow you entry, sir," he replied. "Company policy." As I stood there in disbelief, Derek emerged from the elevator. His face showed no remorse as he approached the door. "Burke, this is unfortunate timing," he said through the glass. "The board has some concerns about intellectual property that has gone missing. Until the investigation is complete, your access has been restricted." "Investigation? What are you talking about? I built this company." "Security. Please escort Mr. Reynolds from the premises. If he resists, call the police." The humiliation of being marched out of my own building by security burns in my memory still. By morning, Derek had issued a press release claiming I had attempted to steal proprietary code to sell to competitors. My reputation in Seattle's tech community was instantly tarnished. Clients I had personally brought on board stopped returning my calls. Investors distanced themselves. Former employees expressed sympathy but were afraid to publicly support me for fear of legal repercussions. Jessica remained my one constant support. "We will fight this," she promised. "People who know this is absurd." The financial impact was immediate and severe. The company had guaranteed my apartment lease, which was abruptly terminated. My company email and access to all resources were cut off. My bank accounts were frozen pending investigation of financial improprieties, another of Derek's maneuvers. There was a night, rock bottom, when I sat on the floor of Jessica's apartment, surrounded by the few possessions I had managed to take from my place before being locked out. I broke down completely. Everything I built, I sobbed. Everything I worked for. He took it all. Jessica held me as I finally released the emotions I had been suppressing. Rage, betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreaking loss. It was the darkest moment of my life. Then my phone rang. It was Michael, a junior developer who had always looked up to me. "Burke, I am risking my job. Calling you," he whispered. "You need to know, Derek is pushing through a new valuation before the Series B funding. He is claiming all your contributions as his own, even your original algorithm. And he is bringing in a new CTO next week to replace you permanently." That call in my darkest hour was the spark that ignited my comeback. The next morning I met Marcus, our CFO, at a small coffee shop 10 miles from the office to avoid being seen. Despite the risk to his position, he agreed to help me. "What Derek is doing is not just unethical. It is illegal," Marcus said, sliding a flash drive across the table. "These are copies of all the financial records. The board has not seen the real numbers." With Marcus as my inside connection, I began developing a counter-strategy. Jessica introduced me to her cousin Anthony, a corporate attorney specializing in intellectual property disputes. "This is a clear case of corporate fraud and theft," Anthony said after reviewing the evidence. "But we need to be strategic. Derek has resources and a head start. We established a secure communication channel with loyal employees still inside the company. Michael, the developer who had called me, became our primary contact, discreetly gathering evidence of Derek's fraudulent activities. My technical foresight provided an unexpected advantage. Years earlier, I had established personal backup servers that Derek knew nothing about, containing original versions of all my code with timestamps proving my authorship. The algorithm at the heart of our product, the one Derek was now claiming as his own, was documented in my University of Washington thesis predating our partnership. Jessica converted her home office into our war room. The walls were covered with timelines, evidence lists, and strategy maps. We worked around the clock building a case that would be impossible to dismiss. The key is the investors, Anthony advised. If we can prove Derek misrepresented ownership and company valuation, they will run for the hills. I personally contacted each major investor requesting confidential meetings away from the office. Many refused, but 3 agreed, enough to start a domino effect. I created every line of code in the core product I told them, providing documentation to support my claim. Derek has been systematically defrauding not just me, but all of you. Meanwhile, I used my technical skills to legally access digital evidence Derek thought was destroyed. Server logs showed exactly who had accessed and deleted crucial backup files. Derek's digital fingerprints were all over the sabotage. 7 employees risked their positions to provide sworn affidavits about witnessing Derek forge my signature on official documents. Their collective testimony painted a damning picture of calculated fraud. Our legal case was building, but I needed a catalyst, something that would force immediate action rather than allowing Derek to drag out proceedings while continuing to control the company. That catalyst came in the form of a critical security vulnerability in our main product. A former colleague at Microsoft alerted me to the issue, which could potentially expose client data. I immediately created a security patch, but kept it to myself. When the vulnerability became public knowledge, our biggest client, Rainier Financial, demanded an immediate fix. Derek, unable to provide one without my expertise, found himself in crisis mode. "We need that patch immediately," Rainier's CIO demanded, "or we terminate our contract." When Derek's team failed to resolve the issue, Rainier reached out to me directly. I agreed to meet with their executive team. "I can implement the fix today," I told them, "but you should know why I am not currently at the company I founded." I presented evidence of Derek's fraud, emphasizing how his actions put their data at risk. By the end of that meeting, Rainier had not only given me access to implement the security patch, but had also contacted other clients and major investors with their concerns. Within 48 hours, 6 major clients and 2 institutional investors demanded an emergency board meeting. The house of cards Derek had built was beginning to collapse. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. At 8:55, as Derek was preparing his damage control presentation, Anthony served him with legal papers, a comprehensive lawsuit detailing his fraud with a temporary injunction preventing any further financial moves. When I walked into the boardroom, the same room I had been barred from weeks earlier, Derek's face drained of color. He had not expected me to gain access to the building, much less arrive with 3 major investors and our biggest client's CIO. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded, looking to the security guard who had allowed us entry. "The board requested Mr. Reynolds' presence," replied the guard, now taking orders from the concerned investors. For the next 2 hours, I methodically presented evidence of Derek's systematic betrayal, forged signatures, fraudulent financial statements, misrepresented ownership, and sabotaged servers. I showed email threads where Derek had dismissed me as just the technical guy while claiming credit for my innovations. The algorithm that powers our entire platform was developed by me before I even met Derek. I explained projecting my university thesis on the screen. Here is the original code dated 3 years before our company was founded. Derek attempted to discredit me, claiming I was bitter about being outmaneuvered in business. "Burke is brilliant with code, but naive about business realities," he said, with the same patronizing tone he had used in previous board meetings. His argument crumbled when Marcus presented the real financial documents showing how Derek had been siphoning company funds into personal accounts. The revelation that he had misrepresented company valuation to investors was the final nail in the coffin. "I believed I owned 20% of this company based on your representations," said Eleanor Jacobs, our largest investor. "These documents show I actually own less than 8%. That is securities fraud, Derek." As the meeting progressed, Derek became increasingly desperate, his explanations more convoluted. When Rainier Financial's CIO announced they would pull their business unless I was reinstated, other clients quickly followed suit. The board called for a brief recess to confer privately. During those tense minutes, Derek made a final desperate move, attempting to access the server room to delete remaining evidence. The security cameras I had asked Michael to activate captured this attempt. When the board returned, their decision was unanimous. I would be reinstated as CEO and Derek would be removed from all company positions immediately. I will never forget the moment when security, the same security team that had escorted me out weeks earlier, came to remove Derek from the building. His face contorted with rage as he was walked past employees who watched in stunned silence. "This is not over, Burke," he hissed as he passed me. But it was over. As I walked back into my office and sat at my desk, I felt a complex mixture of vindication, exhaustion, and sadness for the friendship that had been nothing but a calculated business move. The legal aftermath took months to fully resolve. Derek eventually agreed to a settlement that gave me complete control of the company in exchange for avoiding criminal charges. He left Seattle shortly after, supposedly, for a position in Boston. Rebuilding was a gradual process. Trust had been shattered, not just between Derek and me, but throughout the organization. I scheduled one-on-one meetings with every employee, listening to their concerns and perspectives on what had happened. "Many of us knew something was wrong," admitted Tanya from marketing, "but we were afraid to speak up." Derek made it clear that loyalty to him was the path to advancement. I implemented a new company structure, with shared ownership among key team members. No single person, including myself, could make unilateral decisions about company direction. Transparency became our core value, with financial records available to all department heads. Jessica remained my rock throughout the recovery process. Her unwavering belief in me during the darkest times had revealed the depth of her character. 2 years later, she would become my wife in a small ceremony attended by the colleagues who had stood by me. We rehired several talented people who had left during Derek's takeover attempt, creating a stronger, more loyal core team. Each client relationship was personally rebuilt with new contracts that included more favorable terms as a gesture of appreciation for their return. The company recovery was slow but steady. 6 months after the confrontation, we were back to pre-crisis revenue levels. After a year, we had exceeded our previous growth metrics. Looking back, I recognized the warning signs I missed. Derek's increasing secrecy, his subtle isolation of me from decision-making, his careful cultivation of separate relationships with key stakeholders. My blind trust had created the perfect opportunity for betrayal. The experience transformed my approach to business relationships. I learned to balance trust with appropriate oversight to create systems where power is distributed rather than concentrated. Most importantly, I learned that true loyalty is demonstrated through actions, not words. When my mother finally recovered enough to visit Seattle, she toured our new, larger office space. "You have built something remarkable from such adversity," she said, her eyes filled with pride. "Not just a successful company, but a community." She was right. What emerged from the ashes of betrayal was stronger than what had existed before, a company built on authentic relationships rather than a false foundation. 3 years after the confrontation, I unexpectedly ran into Derek at a tech conference in San Francisco. He had aged, the confident charm replaced with a wary guardedness. We acknowledged each other with tight nods, but did not speak. I felt no anger, only a distant sadness for what might have been had his ambition not outpaced his integrity. The most surprising outcome was my personal growth. The crisis forced me to develop beyond my technical comfort zone to become a leader who understood both code and people. The betrayal that could have destroyed me instead created a stronger, more resilient version of myself. Today, Our company is thriving with offices in 3 cities and a reputation for both innovation and integrity. I established a mentorship program for young entrepreneurs, sharing the hard-earned wisdom about partnership trust and proper business structures. Each mentee receives the advice I wish someone had given me: trust, but verify. Create systems that assume the best in people while protecting against the worst. This experience taught me that true resilience comes not from avoiding betrayal, but from how we respond to it. I chose to rebuild without bitterness, to learn without becoming cynical. The company that nearly was stolen from me has become something greater than I initially envisioned, partly because of the fire it passed through. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? What did you learn from that experience? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more real-life business lessons. I would love to know, what warning signs do you look for now in business relationships? Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes what appears to be your greatest defeat can become the foundation of your greatest victory.